So, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? It's kind of fun for me to be out here right now with David after that kind of a reveal. And that's impressive. I've known about this for a little bit, but I had to keep my mouth shut.
Well, yeah, we've had a tremendous amount of fun. I would say that when you start a project like this, the first thing is you probably have noticed it doesn't really have much of any wings. Last year we unveiled a flying wing, and this year we're unveiling something that virtually has no wings. So we could talk about that as a concept. First, the idea behind this was back in the 1950s, there was a gentleman by the name of Custer, and he was looking at the concept of how airplanes actually fly, and it occurred to him that when you have an airplane, it has to develop a specific amount of speed before it can actually get off the ground. So his thought is, why don't we invert that principle, and instead of developing ground speed, instead what we'll do is move the speed of the air over the wing more rapidly. So effectively what this does is it has an active system for pushing air through this giant ring, and that creates lift. So the advantage of this is that you could have this one parked in your garage, and it could take off from your street, and it could land on your street. This model, which is our second prototype, this is what we would call our phase 2. Phase 1 was a model about 1 meter or so in length, about 3 feet in length. This new model that you see over here is about 10, 11 feet in length, but yet it only requires a takeoff distance of about 35 feet or so. The next phase that we're building, which is significantly bigger than this one, that will have a takeoff distance of about 20 feet or so. So what that means is if we use the fires in Maui as an example, we can take off and land right from the beach or from a street, and then off we go.
One of the things that stands out to me, not only is that incredible, but you talk a lot about dreams and not stealing your dreams, and this is a dream of yours to make a difference in the lives of other people. And the fires in Maui is just one example of many where people are challenged all over the world. But those dreams, you don't want people to steal your dreams. Where are you headed from here? What are your dreams for the future?
Well, I mentioned that the purpose of this was going to be very different from the flying wing. And with the flying wing concept, we've been developing new cutting-edge power generation technology to power that drone so it can stay in the air longer than any other drone. And so you can imagine if you had a better way to generate electricity that was completely clean, that might have some applications in powering your home or recharging your electric cars, which we're being forced to build, So this is the issue, is where are we going to get our electricity from? So solar has its disadvantages, wind has its disadvantages, and putting power generation systems into drones is an excellent way of having a real-world test to see if something's going to work before we roll it out for other applications. For this drone, we're testing something entirely different. First, we're testing new methods of propulsion that don't currently exist. So in the starter models, I'd say there's 6 phases of development on this project, and we're currently in phase 3. So phase 1, as I mentioned, was just to see, is this thing going to work? And then phase 2 is what you've actually seen flying now. So based on those successful tests, we're going over to phase 3. But in addition to propulsion, we're looking at communication systems. So the idea, one of the things that's been incredibly, and this now will kind of be the punchline, one of the things that's been incredibly alarming, I think, to all of us is the suppression of free speech, and that we don't have free communication the way we're supposed to. So some of the things that we're going to be testing with this, you can think of this as a terrestrial Starlink. So imagine you can put one of these things up, in international waters and use it as a communications tower that's not running on 5G and actually using something that's beneficial. We could have our own communication system, so we could have real freedom of speech by having a network of these things around. So my ultimate goal with this is to use this very novel design to have basically have a terrestrial satellite system. So instead of spending billions of dollars to put satellites up in orbit, we can use new technology to have these things around the planet in the atmosphere functioning as communication nodes.
Are all of you hearing what he's saying? What's fascinating to me is you've undoubtedly heard talk of energy, innovation in energy fields. You've heard talk of innovation in communication, doing things a lot differently than what's mostly accepted today. You also happen to see, just a few minutes ago, some slides of the Welcome Center that David didn't want to talk about. Do you see where this is going? It's the innovation, the dreams, not letting someone steal your dreams, and that innovation is what attracted me to LifeWave in the first place. And I remember during one of our first conversations, and I mentioned this yesterday when I talked, you said something that really got to me, and it was, I want to be an innovator, I want to do things differently, I want to think 15, 20 years in the future. I don't want Me Too products, or to put it a different way, I don't want copycat products that you can buy anywhere else. We have that now with patches. So communication's part of it, power's part of it. Where do you see the rest of this going, and what are your dreams for LifeWave in the future?
Yeah, so let's talk about first the capabilities of this, because if we talk about the capabilities, then some of those things are going to become kind of self-evident, right? So one of the things that we've already done with this, in addition to short takeoff and landing, is the loiter speed. So today, if we wanted to take a drone and we wanted to hover it over a target, so let's say we use a practical example. We had the unfortunate hurricane that went through Florida, and we had 20,000 homes that got wiped out. And if they had had our drone technology, they could have created a map of the damaged area within about 3 or 4 days, as opposed to the over 6 weeks that it took doing it from the ground. So when we're talking about the ability to loiter over a target, typically we're going to think of quadcopters. And the problem with quadcopters is that the endurance is limited to maybe 15 minutes, 20, 30 minutes at most. So there are very significant disadvantages there. We can't effectively loiter over a target with a conventional drone. They're just flying too quickly. And if we want to include a VTOL module in the drone, the flight time is limited with battery power to about 6 or 8 minutes. So in our drone that you've seen, how would I say this? Off-the-shelf technology allows for a flight of about 6 minutes on VTOL. Our drone is different. We're using other tech that we invented for that. So there's very, very serious downsides. With this drone, we don't need to take either of those approaches. We don't need a complicated vertical takeoff and landing system. We don't need anything like a quadcopter. There's technology that's built into this that allows it to fly today at about 10 miles per hour over a target without requiring any extra blades to do that, like you would have with a quadcopter. So it's extraordinarily efficient, and it works extremely well.
All of this innovation, where are we going with this? What do you see as the future for LifeWave in general, and for all the people who are here today and all those who are watching virtually?
I'm not there yet. I'll talk a little bit more about this so they can understand where we're going with
let's
it.
do it.
I know you're excited to get to that part, Mr. Sales Guy.
Yes.
And I know that. I want to go through this just a little bit more, because then we should tell the story a little bit more. Another thing about this drone, so when we think about natural disasters, right, one of the big problems is there's going to be heavy winds, or when you're trying to get into places, maybe at extreme altitudes, the weather is going to play a significant role. And conventional drones have a limit of maybe 15 to 20 miles an hour in terms of wind gusts, what they can handle. And of course, hurricanes would be much, much higher than that. So we actually flew this in 15-mile-an-hour winds, and it was completely resistant to those wind gusts. Didn't care about it, one way or another because of the design. So the good thing about this is that when there is a natural disaster, when there's an emergency, we don't have to wait until the weather improves before getting a drone in the air. This is not going to care one way or the other. So that's important because where we're going in the future, Ryan, is this place where we can use this technology first to provide humanitarian relief, and this redefines the network marketing industry. It's good for every company, and it gives every company an opportunity to say, yeah, look what LifeWave has done with innovation and with humanitarian relief, and hopefully we can get people to start looking at our industry in an entirely different way. So that's one of the things I want to see coming out of it. Is that what you were looking for?
It's actually a different answer that I'm looking for, but I want to go with that one for a minute. So looking at our industry in an entirely different way. We've had a few discussions during this event about companies that maybe haven't done things the same way that LifeWave has done. You're looking to create a company that stands out among all network marketing companies, that is truly different, not just because we stand here on stage and say we're different, but that we are different.
Yeah, this really starts with the mindset of making innovation a commitment to research, putting money into that, time and resources, people, to have that as the very foundation of everything else that you're doing. So the idea is looking at the various trends. So back in 2008, I was looking at where the trends in health and science, and those trends were in stem cells. So we began working back then on ways to activate stem cells in the human body. And of course, ultimately, that led to the release of X39. So we can all relate to how a commitment, a long-term commitment to innovation, putting millions of dollars into research, is going to result in products that present phenomenal business opportunities. So today, we don't have any competitors for our patch technology. And that's because we continue to invest money, we continue to develop new products instead of resting on the ones that we have. So, thinking beyond that, what are the trends of where things are going in the next 5 to 10 years? Well, we could say our food supply is corrupted. There are unspeakable things being done with genetic engineering with our food. So we have to be able to have control over our food supply and grow our own food. Based on that response, I would dare to say that we should be concerned with our water. Our water drinking water is toxic, polluted. You can't drink the water. You don't want to shower in the water. So we need to have better technology to provide water that's clean. And of course, go beyond that. We want to think about water as an opportunity to heal the human body. Right? So with these drones, it gives us the opportunity to test new technology in power generation, in communications, and look at how are these going to be platforms that we could potentially use for the future. So as an example, when we talk about communications, we all lived through the pandemic, and we all lived through an era where if you said, and I know this because it happened to LifeWave, I happened to put an article out on the use of vitamin C as an effective means of treating viral infections, and Facebook flagged that and took the post down. Despite the fact that this was a study published by the National Institute of Health. It's like, how can you suppress a government study? This is ridiculous. So we want to be thinking about these things. And thinking about these trends, so that if we're putting millions of dollars into the research and we're putting 5 years, 10 years, whatever the period of time is going to be, but it's important just to get started and just get started, just get going, and then see how it develops. And the drone side of our research has been going incredibly well. It is going better than any other project, I think, that I've worked on. So there's no question it's going to be successful.
That's fantastic. One of the things that stands out to me, you said this yesterday, you said it again today, we're a technology company. That our efforts in driving technologies to a certain degree will help create new potential products, new opportunities, new trends, maybe that we could be at the forefront of. We talked a little bit about Star Trek, and you brought up how the underlying theme, underneath Heart to Heart, is Star Trek. Well, some of those things, I'm going to tie it to the space program if I can. Innovations that we take advantage of today started in the 60s when the space program was developing. All kinds of direction and movement in places led to other technologies that they weren't even looking for. Same holds true for LifeWave.
Same holds true, absolutely. When I started the research on stem cells, at first I was thinking that we needed a type of external electromagnetic field to signal the activation of stem cells. So we began to develop these novel coils that produced a novel shape for a pulsed electromagnetic field, and this ended up having a therapeutic effect. But as we got through the research, eventually that led to the development of X39. So it's important when you start out on a research program that you don't necessarily want to be tied into any one specific outcome. You have to be very organic and flexible, because you don't know what direction things are going to take based on the research that you do. So in other words, this would be in the category of unexpected results. You run experiments, you create prototypes, and then you may see and observe an outcome where you get an aha moment and you say, oh, this is something I need to pay attention to. Let's go ahead and investigate this, and let's see if we can create something new from it. So it's totally okay that you start with one concept and it develops into something else. So the flying wing came first, and that's been an absolutely critical part of what we're doing for humanitarian aid. But this was the next step. It doesn't look like the logical next step, but when I began to look at the operational parameters of the flying wing and what it was capable of, I thought, okay, I want to take this now and create something new with it. So I was able to reach out to 3 engineers and present them with a concept, and they said, oh, we've got absolutely something in mind for this, and it was a collaborative effort to get to where we are today.
Just phenomenal stuff. Would it be safe to say, David, that you are thinking 5, 10 plus years in the future in terms of innovation and trends and tapping into those and creating opportunities for people in this room?
Oh, no, you think 20 years ahead.
Okay.
So yeah, no, you think 20 years ahead because you want to look, 10 years is almost a little bit too short. There's certainly going to be many innovations that make it to market within the next 5 to 10 years. And at the rate at which information is doubling and there are new discoveries being made, you have to stay on top of those things and be able to respond to them. But you do want to take the best guess at where we could potentially be in 20 years, right? So 20 years, we'd say that drones are going to be an intimate part of our life. We're going to be getting deliveries of food by drones. You know, you'll be able to have an app and get a pizza delivered or Chinese food delivered by a drone. You're going to get your mail delivered by a drone. Amazon's already doing this. They have a number of patents on it. There's already trials being done to deliver organs in the future. And that organ donations are going away. We're going to 3D print organs. So God forbid, you know, you develop diabetes, you'll be able to have a doctor 3D print a pancreas, insert it into your body, and then inject stem cells from a 25-year-old, and now you have a 25-year-old pancreas, even though you might be 50, 60, 70 years old. So these are all things, you know, that are going to be happening in the not too distant future. So when we think about the opportunities for drones, when I look at communications and the reason why it impacts us, number one, we need our own system of communications, so we can't be shut down. And then the next thing we need, the next thing we need, we might want to say, is by 2030, right? So just around the corner now. By 2030, it's estimated that the amount of money the communication industry will generate by drones will be $200 billion globally. So this is an enormous market. And so if you can go into that market with a technology that nobody else has and everybody wants, then we can create an unbelievably powerful business opportunity. So that's the thinking of looking that forward into the future.
That, ladies and gentlemen, I think is the definition of innovation for a technology company.
Well, we didn't talk about the performance numbers on it.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, let's do that. So we talked about that it's short takeoff